They are fast disappearing. They are what Jane Jacobs called in her seminal book, The Death and Life of American Cities, the block mamas. Before the projects took over, before all of these high rises, before all of that, they were all over the place in every block in this city. I mean, on the fire escapes, on the stoops, on their pillow-enforced windowsills, peering out at the bustle of the street scene below. You didn't need any cops. People later found out what they lost and hired watchers called doormen. Nothing, no one ever escaped the sweep of their built-in radar. They were the self-policers, the secret enforcers, the surrogate parents, the built-in conscience of the New York neighborhoods. There are still a few of these stalwart ladies around. I think of Barbara on 112th Street. God bless her. They were the ones who kept the faith and who kept the peace and waged war against injustice in small places and high, waged war against the principalities and powerhouses, waged war against the council members and district leaders and the judges. These gutsy ladies of the Lower East Side, of Flatbush, of East Harlem and Mott Haven, were the incarnation of St. Luke's testy little widow that we hear about today. This pushy, persistent, testy neighborhood friend, this local advocate. Jesus likes her type. You can almost catch the twinkle in his eye when he tells not about the widow's mite, but the mighty widow. You can almost catch his smile as he paints the picture of the pompous judge, this boss pontificating in his robes at the bench at the city gate with all his trappings of power. See him now, backing down, giving up before the onslaught of the little widow, wearing him down, wearing him down. What this passage really says is that the crooked judge is afraid that the little lady is going to pummel him, to give him, as they say in Greek, a hio piazzo, a black eye, not only physically, but socially and politically. This by her persistence, by her absolute unwillingness to give up, by her perseverance. Not all of the block moms are Jewish. Many are Latina, Afro-American, Polish, Italian, and I suspect I have met one or two Episcopalians. Rare. But these real social brokers, I don't mean social workers, I mean social brokers, what they have in common is a spirit that is inherited really from the Old Testament, from the Jewish Bible. The passion for justice, taking up the lot of the underdog, like a great writer in New York, great journalist once did, named Maury Kempton. God's justice, you see, is quite different from human justice. Justice seems all to be often that human justice waited on the side of the establishment. No, God's justice is on the side always of the weak, on the side of the dispossessed, of the side of the powerless. Haven't you noticed? This is profoundly rooted and based in the Hebrew biblical tradition. To take on the powerful, yes, even to take on God. We have just been reading in Genesis the very, very early tale of Jacob receiving his blessing through a struggle, a wrestling match with God. That's how he got to be Israel. That's how he got his name. Through struggle, not through passivity. Through struggle. Throughout the entirety of the sacred scriptures, my friends, throughout the entire interpretation and biblical commentary made by the rabbis, there is invariably a struggle, a deep questioning of God. Oh God, how could you do this? God, how could you allow this to happen? This little wonderful widow is very much in the train of that ancient and profound spirituality. When you go home, read Job again. How can a good and loving, all-powerful God allow this to happen before our very eyes, in our very sight? We want to argue with God, to fight with God. We are outraged with this omnipotent judge. We want to tell him off. Amidst all our fear and trembling, amidst all our nauseating doubt, amidst all our high anxiety, it may be well now to recall the story of the feisty little powerless widow, that block mama of old, who begs for justice from a far-off judge, a judge like the God we cannot touch, we cannot see, the God we cannot even imagine, as St. John Chrysostom's liturgy puts it. She will just not give up. She will not give in. She cries day and night. She will not go away. Persistence, perseverance, in good times and in bad times, favorable times or unfavorable. That's the way Paul puts it. Persevere unto the end. Them who win the race and get the crown are the ones who last it out, who persevere to the end. Of course, we human beings don't know what we're doing. We haven't got a clue. But God knows what we are doing. Persevere unto the end. Press on, because God reigns and we don't. The peculiar Christian belief is in the incarnation, we say. God enters into this world and to share our human nature, to live and to die as one of us. God enters into this world in the flesh. God enters into your life not as some ghostly apparition, but in the flesh, palpably real. The reality of that fact almost causes me to faint. A couple of weeks ago, I wandered off the beaten path by persistence or by guile, I don't really know. I wandered onto a pier in the Hudson River on which everyone was dressed in white. I thought they were angels or saints. They were rescue workers, and they were hovering around in and out of a shelter in a large white tent. I thought it was because it was beginning to rain, or because they needed some sort of rest or refreshment. But suddenly, in my shock, I saw that they were, in fact, sorting out cadavers, bodies, human bodies, and body parts for identification, for DNA identification. The remains of the human victims of the Holocaust. The only thing that it could remotely resemble this was a rescue that I had seen in an army film long time ago in my youth. It was the gathering and disposal of corpses and skeletons by our bereft and sickened soldiers found at Auschwitz, at Dachau and Treblinka in the last days of World War II. And there were all those little helpful signs that people put up in the time of crisis with arrows, written on that Dachau-like wharf in the Hudson, written in oak tag with a magic marker on a piece of plywood. Refreshments, one said, put there quite obviously for the relief of the rescuers. Yet another sign simply said, morgue. And set in the midst of the piles of wreckage and the pulverized masonry and the torn flesh was another little sign, put there, placed there on a little carpenter's table, used as an altar that some priests had put there to say Mass. Someone had put there yet another little sign. It simply said, the body of Christ. All around us, the body of Christ, the broken body of Jesus. Dear friends, God is not secretly peering down at this horror, at this street scene, through some tear in the curtain of heaven. No, God is in the towers of the World Trade Center. God is in the camps of starving Afghan children. This is my body, broken for all of you, not just some of you, for all of you. Right now, we are going to participate, you and I, in the ultimate act of persistence, the ultimate act of perseverance, the ultimate act of defiance against death. Whenever you get together, the Lord tells us, do this. Do this. To put together all the broken members, to put them back together again. Do this to remember, to represent, to recollect, and don't ever lose heart. Press on. Do this in the defiance of death. Be persistent, whether the time is favorable or unfavorable. You be a sign of how it's going to be. God's reign is inexorable, and God's victory is inevitable. In the meantime, it may be a good thing to imitate that persistent and pushy widow of old, that black mama whom Jesus so admired. He told us, didn't he, to be like her, to fight for justice for all, and to never give up, never to give in to the powers of this world, to never give in to death. L'chaim, to life.